The shuttle touched down on the cold metal surface of Station Omega-7 with a soft thud. Jiho Park stepped out into the artificial atmosphere, his diplomatic uniform crisp and clean. The station hung in space like a metal tumor, all sharp edges and flashing lights against the starfield beyond. Jiho had seen many alien facilities before. This one felt different. Wrong somehow. The corridors were too narrow for humans. The lighting too harsh and blue. Everything smelled of ozone and something else he could not name. Something that made his stomach turn. Sumi Lee waited for him at the docking bay. She was young for a colonial administrator, maybe 25, with tired eyes that had seen too much. Her hands shook slightly as she held her data pad. "Diplomat Park," she said with a small bow. "Thank you for coming so quickly. The situation is worse than our initial report suggested." They walked through the station corridors together. Alien beings moved past them, tall and insect-like with 4 arms and compound eyes. These were the Vorthak, one of the newer members of the Galactic Council. Their empire had grown quickly in recent decades, absorbing smaller civilizations with promises of protection and progress. "Tell me exactly what we are dealing with," Jiho said as they walked. His voice was calm and professional, the voice of a man who had negotiated trade deals with species that breathed methane and considered sulfuric acid a delicacy. Sumi consulted her data pad. 3 months ago, the colony world of Haven 3 was evacuated due to volcanic activity. 17,000 humans were relocated to temporary facilities across 3 systems. Everything seemed normal until last week. They stopped at a security checkpoint. The Vorthak guard scanned them with devices that hummed and clicked. Its compound eyes focused on Jiho for a long moment, then it waved them through. "What changed last week?" Jiho asked. "We started getting messages," Sumi said quietly. "Families looking for their children. At first we thought it was normal bureaucratic confusion. You know how these massive relocations go. But then we checked the manifests. They entered a lift that rose slowly through the station core. Through the transparent walls, Jiho could see the vastness of space and the distant glow of Haven 3's sun. 237 children are missing from the official relocation records," Sumi continued, ages 5 to 17. The Vorthak claimed they were taken to a separate facility for special processing. The lift stopped and the doors opened. They stepped into a corridor that looked different from the rest of the station. The walls were plain gray metal with no decorations. The lighting was dimmer here, casting long shadows. "Special processing," Jiho repeated. Something cold settled in his chest. "What kind of special processing?" "That is what we need to find out," Sumi said. "The Vorthak have been very vague about the details. They keep saying the children are safe and being well cared for, but they will not let anyone see them." They approached a heavy door marked with alien symbols. 2 Vorthak guards stood on either side, their forearms holding weapons that looked like crosses between rifles and medical instruments. "This is where they are keeping them?" Jiho asked. Sumi nodded. "Section C7. It was supposed to be a temporary holding area while permanent placements were arranged. But it has been 3 months, and no one has been allowed inside except Vorthak personnel." One of the guards stepped forward. It was taller than most Vorthak, with darker chitin and scars along its arms. Its translator device crackled as it spoke. "You are the human diplomatic representative," it said. The words came out mechanical and flat. "I am Commander Threlix. You wish to inspect the facility?" "Yes," Jiho said. "We need to verify the well-being of the human children being held here." Threlix's compound eyes shifted, reflecting the corridor lights like tiny mirrors. "The specimens are being maintained according to Galactic Council protocols for refugee processing. There is no need for inspection, specimens." The word hit Jiho like a physical blow. He kept his expression neutral, but Sumi saw his hands clench slightly at his sides. "Nevertheless," Jiho said carefully, "as their legal guardian species, humans have the right to verify their condition. This is standard procedure under Council regulations." The alien commander was silent for a long moment. Then it gestured to the door with one of its 4 arms. "Very well. But you will observe only. Do not interfere with ongoing research." Research. Another word that made Jiho's chest tighten. The door slid open with a hiss of pressurizing air. The smell that wafted out made both humans step back. It was the smell of unwashed bodies, fear, and something else. Something wrong. They followed Threlix into a large room lined with transparent barriers. Behind each barrier was a small space with a sleeping mat, a waste facility, and nothing else. The barriers were maybe 3 meters by 3 meters. barely large enough for a grown human to lie down. But these were not grown humans. Jiho stopped walking. His breath caught in his throat. Behind the barriers were children. Human children. They sat on their mats in silence, staring at nothing. Their clothes were dirty and too small. Their faces were thin, too thin. Some of the younger ones were crying quietly. In one barrier, a small boy who could not have been older than 8 sat hugging his knees. His dark hair was matted and his eyes were huge in his gaunt face. In another, a girl about 12 years old was trying to comfort an even younger child through the barrier wall. "My God," Sumi whispered. Jiho said nothing. He walked slowly along the row of barriers, counting. 20 children in this room alone. All of them looked hungry. All of them looked scared. The 8-year-old boy looked up as Jiho approached. For a moment, their eyes met through the transparent wall. The child's expression was heartbreaking, hope and fear mixed together. "Hello," Jiho said softly. "What is your name?" The boy glanced nervously at the Vorthak guards, then whispered, "Do-hyun Kim." "How long have you been here, Do-hyun?" "A long time," the boy said. His voice was hoarse. "I want to go home. I want my mom." Jiho placed his hand against the barrier. The material was cold under his palm. "We are going to help you," he said. "All of you." Commander Threlix moved closer. "The specimens are being fed adequate nutrition for their size and age. They receive medical attention when required. This facility meets all council standards for refugee processing." Jiho turned to look at the alien commander. When he spoke, his voice was still calm and professional, but something had changed in his eyes. "How many more rooms like this are there?" 7 additional containment areas house the remaining specimens. "Show me." They moved through the facility methodically. Each room contained between 15 and 30 children. All of them showed signs of malnutrition and psychological trauma. Many of the older children had taken responsibility for the younger ones, creating makeshift family groups within their barriers. In the 5th room, Jiho met Nari Choi, a 12-year-old girl who had organized the children in her section into a system of shared resources and mutual support. She stood protectively in front of the younger children when the adults approached. "Are you here to take us home?" she asked. "Yes," Jiho said. "Soon." By the time they finished the tour, Jiho had counted 237 children, matching exactly the number on Sumi's list. All of them were being kept in conditions that barely met basic survival requirements. None of them had been allowed contact with their families. "The specimens show interesting pack bonding behaviors," Commander Threlix explained as they walked back toward the exit. "The older specimens consistently attempt to care for the younger ones, even when resources are limited. We are documenting these interactions for future study." Jiho stopped walking. "Study? Yes. Human social behavior is not well documented in council databases. These specimens provide an excellent opportunity to observe natural human responses to controlled stress environments." Something very dangerous flickered behind Jiho's calm expression. Sumi saw it and felt a chill run down her spine. "I see," Jiho said quietly. "And how long do you plan to continue these observations?" "The research timeline is flexible. Potentially several more months, depending on the data quality." Jiho was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I need to make some calls." Jiho Park sat in the small communications room that the Vorthak had provided for him. His hands were perfectly still on the desk, but Sumi Lee could see the tension in his shoulders. She had worked with diplomats before. They were trained to stay calm under pressure. This was different. This was a man holding back something dangerous. "I want to speak with whoever is in charge of this facility," Jiho said to Commander Threlix. His voice was still polite, still professional, but there was steel underneath now. "I am the ranking officer here," Threlix replied. "All decisions regarding the specimens come through me." "Stop calling them specimens," Jiho said quietly. "They are children, human children with names and families who are looking for them." The alien commander tilted its insect-like head. "Semantic differences are irrelevant. The subjects are being maintained according to proper protocols." Jiho stood up slowly. He was not a tall man, barely average height for a human. But something in his movement made both Sumi and the Vorthak guards take notice. "I am ordering you to release these children immediately," he said. "Return them to their families. This detention is illegal under Galactic Council law." Threlix made a sound that might have been laughter. "You misunderstand the situation, human. These specimens were found without proper documentation during the evacuation. According to Council Regulation 47B, undocumented refugees can be held for processing and study for up to 1 standard year. They are not undocumented, Sumi said, stepping forward with her datapad. I have the full manifest here. Every child has proper identification and family contacts. Your human records are not recognized by this facility, Threlix said dismissively. We require proper Vorthak documentation, which these specimens do not possess. Jiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very soft. You are holding children prisoner so you can study them like laboratory animals. We are conducting valuable research into human social behavior patterns. The pack bonding phenomenon you display is unique among galactic species. Understanding it could benefit all council members. Pack bonding, Jiho repeated. Is that what you call it when a 12-year-old girl tries to take care of babies because their parents are not here? Precisely. The older specimens consistently prioritize the welfare of younger specimens, even at cost to themselves. It is fascinating behavior. Something shifted in Jiho's expression. Sumi had seen that look before, but not on diplomats. She had seen it on the faces of soldiers just before battles began. Show me the research data, Jiho said. Threlix gestured to one of the guards, who brought over a portable display unit. Images and charts filled the screen. Video footage of the children in their barriers. Graphs tracking their emotional responses. Charts measuring their food consumption and sleep patterns. Jiho watched in silence as the display showed footage of little Do-hyun Kim crying himself to sleep, of Nari Choi giving her food ration to a younger child, of teenagers holding babies through the barrier walls singing lullabies in Korean. Remarkable, Threlix said, pointing to the charts. Even under severe nutritional stress, the older specimens continue to sacrifice for the younger ones. No other species displays such irrational behavior. How much food are you giving them? Jiho asked. Standard refugee rations. Adequate for basic survival. Children need more food than adults to grow properly, Sumi said. These portions are not adequate. Resource allocation is calculated for optimal facility efficiency, Threlix replied. Excessive feeding is wasteful. Jiho stared at the screen where 8-year-old Do-hyun was visible in his tiny cell. The boy was sitting on his sleeping mat staring at nothing. His ribs were clearly visible through his thin shirt. I need to use your communication system, Jiho said. I need to contact the human authorities. Of course, though I should warn you that any attempt to interfere with our research will be reported to the Galactic Council. The Vorthak Empire has invested significant resources in this project. Jiho walked to the communication console. His movements were careful and controlled, like a man carrying something fragile that might explode if dropped. He opened a channel to the Human Colonial Defense Force. The signal took several minutes to connect across the interstellar distances. This is Diplomat Jiho Park. Authorization code 77 Alpha, he said when the connection established. I need to speak with Captain Hyan Wu of the Soul's Pride immediately. The response came back crackling with static. Diplomat Park, this is Captain Wu. What is your situation? Jiho looked at Commander Threlix, who was listening with interest. He chose his words carefully. Captain, I have discovered a situation that requires immediate attention. 237 human children have been detained for 3 months, under conditions that violate multiple council regulations. The detaining authority refuses to release them. Understood. What are your orders? Bring everything, Captain. Bring everything you have. There was a pause on the other end. Then Captain Wu's voice came back harder now. Copy that, Diplomat Park. We are 3 days out from your position. Soul's Pride and escort vessels are en route. Thank you, Captain. Jiho closed the communication channel. Commander Threlix was studying him with its compound eyes. You called for military vessels, the alien said. That seems excessive for a diplomatic matter. Those children have been imprisoned for 3 months, Jiho replied. Their families think they are dead. Some of them are barely surviving on starvation rations. You are treating them like experimental animals. This is no longer a diplomatic matter. The specimens are safe and well cared for within acceptable parameters. Safe. Jiho turned to look at the alien commander. You think a 5-year-old locked in a 3-meter cell for 3 months is safe? The youngest specimens adapt quickly to containment. They show remarkable resilience. Jiho was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Colder. I want to see them again. All of them, if you wish, though I warn you not to attempt any interference with the specimens. Security measures are in place to prevent contamination of the research environment. They walked back through the corridors to the detention areas. This time Jiho moved more slowly, stopping at each barrier. He spoke to every child he could, asking their names, where they came from, how they were feeling. In the third room, they found 16-year-old Kyung Min. She was older than most of the others, nearly an adult. She had organized the children in her section into groups, with the older ones taking care of the younger ones. When she saw the adults approaching, she moved protectively in front of the smaller children. "Are you here to help us?" she asked. Her voice was strong, but Jiho could see the exhaustion in her eyes. "Yes," he said. "Help is coming." "When?" asked a small voice from behind Kyung Min. It was a little girl, maybe 6 years old, with huge dark eyes. "I want my mama." "Soon," Jiho promised. "Very soon." Kyung Min studied his face. "You are different from the others who came to look at us. You look angry." Jiho knelt down so he was at eye level with the children. "I am angry," he said quietly. "But not at you. Never at you. Who are you angry at?" the little girl asked. Jiho glanced up at Commander Threlix, who was watching with interest. "The people who put you in here. The people who are keeping you away from your families. Will you make them let us go?" "Yes," Jiho said. His voice carried absolute certainty. "I will make them let you go." As they left the detention area, Commander Threlix made notes on a small device. "Interesting," it said. "The adult human shows clear signs of emotional agitation when exposed to the juvenile specimens. This supports our theories about human pack bonding extending beyond genetic relationships." Jiho stopped walking. He turned slowly to face the alien commander. "You think this is a game?" he said. "You think you are studying interesting behavior patterns in lab rats. The comparison is not inaccurate. Human emotional responses are quite predictable when proper stimuli are applied." "Then let me make something very clear to you," Jiho said. His voice was still quiet, but something in it made the Vorthak guards shift nervously. "Those children are not specimens. They are not research subjects. They are human young, and they are under human protection. You have 3 days to release them voluntarily." "And if we refuse?" Jiho smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Then you will learn exactly what human pack bonding looks like when someone threatens our children." Commander Threlix made another note on its device. "Fascinating," it said. "The protective response appears to be escalating according to predicted parameters." Jiho said nothing more. But as they walked away, Sumi saw him clench his hands into fists. 3 days suddenly seemed like a very long time. The command center of Station Omega-7 buzzed with activity. Vorthak officers moved between glowing displays showing star charts and sensor readings. Commander Threlix stood at the central console watching red dots appear on the tactical screen. "How many human vessels are approaching?" asked Sub Commander Veltar, a smaller Vorthak with silver markings on its chitin. 3 ships, Threlix replied. 1 Corvette-class vessel and 2 smaller escort ships. Standard human diplomatic protection force. Veltar clicked its mandibles in what passed for amusement among their species. "The humans think 3 small ships can intimidate a Vorthak battle station? Our defensive platforms alone outnumber their entire force." "Indeed," Threlix agreed. The human diplomatic representative seemed to believe his military would somehow compel us to abandon our research. It shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the power balance in this system. Across the command center, Dr. Yuna Han worked quietly at her research station. She was one of the few non-Vorthak beings on the station, a human scientist who had joined the Galactic Council's xenobiology program 5 years earlier. Her specialty was interspecies behavioral studies. Dr. Han had been monitoring the human children since their arrival 3 months ago. Unlike the Vorthak researchers, she understood that she was watching something dangerous develop. "Commander," she said, approaching Threlix carefully, "I need to discuss the human psychological profiles with you." "What about them?" Threlix asked without turning from the tactical display. "The emotional stress indicators have been climbing steadily since the diplomatic visit yesterday. The children are showing signs of severe trauma, but that is not what concerns me most." Now Threlix turned to look at her. "Explain." Dr. Han activated a portable display showing charts and brain scan images. "Humans have a unique neurological response when their young are threatened. It is not simply anger or fear. It is something much more dangerous. The protective instinct is common among many species, Sub-Commander Veltar said dismissively. Nothing unusual there. No, you do not understand, Dr. Han insisted. I have studied 17 different species in crisis situations. Human protective responses are fundamentally different. When they perceive a threat to their young, they do not just fight harder, they become something else entirely. She pulled up video footage from the children's cells. Look at this behavior pattern. The older children are not just caring for the younger ones. They are forming family units with non-relatives. They are creating parent-child bonds with children they never knew before imprisonment. Yes, we have observed this pack bonding phenomenon, Trellick said. It is why the research is so valuable. You are missing the point, Dr. Han said urgently. These children are not just bonding with each other. They are bonding with every human who sees them. That diplomat yesterday, Jiho Park. Did you see his physiological responses when he looked at the children? Standard emotional agitation, Veltar replied. Elevated heart rate, increased stress hormones. Typical mammalian reactions. His brain showed the same activity patterns as a parent whose biological child was being threatened. His body produced the same chemical responses. Within minutes of seeing those children, he had formed parental bonds with every single one of them. Dr. Han switched to another display showing historical data. I have been studying human military actions for 5 years. Every time human children have been threatened by alien forces, the human response has been completely disproportionate to the actual threat level. What do you mean? Trellix asked. 12 years ago, Zephyrian pirates captured a human transport ship with 43 children aboard. The humans sent an entire battle fleet to retrieve them. They destroyed 3 Zephyrian bases and crippled their entire raiding network. For 43 children. Excessive response, Veltar commented. Proof of human irrationality. 8 years ago, a Krellin mining operation accidentally trapped 17 human children in a collapsed tunnel. The humans mobilized engineering teams from 6 systems. They spent more resources on the rescue operation than the entire mineral value of the mining planet. For 17 children. Dr. Han's voice grew more urgent. 4 years ago, a Benthari research station had a life support failure that threatened 12 human children living there. The humans sent medical ships, engineers, an entire relief fleet. They saved everyone on the station, not just the human children, and then rebuilt the facility at their own expense. Your point? Thralix asked impatiently. My point is that we have 237 human children imprisoned here under conditions that are slowly killing them. And you think 3 human ships is their maximum response? The command center fell silent except for the humming of electronic systems. Several Vorthak officers had stopped their work to listen. The approaching human force is not meant to intimidate us, Dr. Han continued. It is meant to evaluate our defenses and assess the threat level. When they report back what they find here, the real response will begin. You are overestimating human capabilities, Trellick said firmly. They are a young species with limited military resources. This station has defensive capabilities that could hold off a fleet 10 times larger than anything they could bring to bear. That is exactly what the Zephyrians thought, Dr. Han said quietly. She activated another display showing footage from the detention areas. Little Doyen Kim was visible, sitting alone in his cell. He had grown thinner in the past week. His eyes were sunken and he moved slowly, conserving energy. Look at him, Dr. Han said. Really look at him. That child is dying. Slowly, but he is dying. When the humans realize this, when they understand that their delay means more suffering for these children, they will not send negotiators or diplomats. What will they send? Veltar asked, though he sounded less confident now. Everything they have, Dr. Han replied. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier they can mobilize. Because to humans, those children are not just members of their species. They are family, and humans will burn entire star systems to protect their family. Commander Trellick studied the tactical display again. The 3 human ships were still 2 days away. Even if you are correct, we have time to prepare. Our defenses are more than adequate. You still do not understand, Dr. Han said desperately. When humans fight to protect their young, they do not fight to win. They fight to ensure that anyone who threatens their children never threatens them again. They fight for total annihilation of the threat. She pulled up the final piece of data, a psychological profile of diplomat Jiho Park from the previous day. Look at his brain scans from when he first saw the children. Then look at them from when he left yesterday. The 2 scans were dramatically different. The first showed normal human stress responses. The second showed something else entirely. Neural pathways associated with extreme protective aggression were fully activated. Adrenaline and combat hormone levels were off the charts. He looked like a civilized diplomat, Dr. Han explained, but his brain was in the same state as a human warrior preparing for battle. Not just any battle, a battle to defend his own children from mortal danger. One human cannot threaten this entire facility, Threlix said, but his voice lacked conviction. One human called for help, Dr. Han corrected, and when those ships arrive, they will carry humans in the exact same mental state. Humans who see those children as their own family members being slowly tortured to death. She gestured to the tactical display. You see 3 small ships and think you have the advantage. I see 3 ships full of humans whose brains are telling them that their children are dying, and they need to kill everyone responsible. A new alarm sounded in the command center. An officer called out from his station. Commander, we are receiving a transmission from the human diplomatic vessel. Put it through, Threlix ordered. Jiho Park's voice filled the command center. His tone was calm and professional, exactly as it had been during his visit. Commander Threlix, this is Diplomat Park. I am transmitting the official Human Colonial Authority demand for the immediate release of all detained human children. You have 48 hours to comply. And if we refuse? Threlix responded. There was a long pause before Jiho answered. When he spoke again, something had changed in his voice. Something cold and final. Then we will come and take them. The transmission ended. The command center was quiet for a moment. 48 hours, Veltar said nervously.
That is less time than we calculated. Dr. Han was packing up her research materials.
Where are you going? Threlix demanded. To the evacuation pods, she replied. While there is still time. You are overreacting. This station can withstand any assault. Dr. Han paused at the doorway. Commander, I have spent 5 years studying human behavior. I know what is coming. Those ships out there do not carry diplomats anymore. They carry parents who think their children are dying. And there is no force in the galaxy more dangerous than that. She left the command center quickly. Behind her, the Vorthak officers stared at the tactical display showing 3 small human ships still 2 days away. None of them understood that they were already dead. The alarm started screaming at 0347 station time. Commander Threlix rushed to the command center, his forearms moving quickly as he tried to process what the sensors were showing him. The 3 human ships they had been tracking were gone. In their place was something impossible. Report, Threlix demanded. Sub-Commander Veltar's voice shook as he read the display. 17 human vessels just dropped out of hyperspace. No, sir, 22. No, wait, more are arriving every minute. The tactical display showed red dots appearing like stars being born. Small escort ships, medium cruisers, and something else. Something massive that made the station's defensive computers recalculate threat levels every few seconds. What is that large signature? Threlix asked, pointing to the biggest red dot on the screen. Scanning now, sir. It appears to be a human dreadnought-class vessel, mass equivalent to a small moon. Weapon signatures are off the charts. Threlix stared at the display. Where 3 small ships had been approaching yesterday, now a full human battle fleet hung in space. The dreadnought alone was larger than their entire station. How did they mobilize so many ships so quickly? Veltar asked. Unknown, sir. Human fleet doctrine suggests this level of response would require weeks of preparation and authorization from their highest military commands. A communication request appeared on the main screen. Commander Threlix accepted it, and the bridge filled with the image of a human woman in military uniform. Her face was hard as carved stone. I am Admiral Bomi Shin of the Human Colonial Defense Force, she said. You are ordered to surrender this facility immediately and release all human prisoners. This is a Vorthak research station operating under Galactic Council authority, Threlix replied. We do not recognize human military jurisdiction here. Admiral Shin's expression did not change. You have 30 minutes to comply. After that, we will take the children by force there. You cannot assault a council facility. This would be an act of war. No, Admiral Shin said quietly. This is an act of rescue. You have 29 minutes, the transmission ended. Threlix turned to his tactical officer. What are our defensive capabilities against this fleet? Sir, our weapon systems are designed to repel raiders and small military forces. Against a fleet of this size, with a dreadnought providing fire support, our chances of successful defense are minimal. How minimal? The tactical officer hesitated. Less than 5%, sir. Threlix felt something cold settle in his stomach. Activate all defensive systems. Send distress calls to the nearest Vorthak fleet elements. We will hold this position. Sir, the nearest Vorthak reinforcements are 4 days away. Then we hold for 4 days. Across the station, human ships began launching smaller craft. Hundreds of assault shuttles and fighter escorts poured out of the larger vessels like angry insects from a disturbed nest. In the detention levels, the children had heard the alarms. 16-year-old Kyung Min pressed her face against the transparent barrier of her cell, trying to see what was happening. The younger children huddled behind her. "What is that noise?" asked little Do-hyun Kim. He looked even thinner than before, his clothes hanging loose on his small frame. "I think someone is coming to help us," Kyung Min said. She tried to sound confident, but her heart was racing. 12-year-old Nari Choi was in the next cell, holding 2 smaller children who were crying. "The lights are flashing red," she said. "That means something bad is happening." "Maybe something bad for the bug people," said a 10-year-old boy named Tae Sung. "Maybe something good for us." The station shook suddenly, throwing the children against the walls of their cells. Emergency lighting activated, casting everything in a harsh red glow. In the command center, chaos erupted as the human assault began. The first wave of human fighters swept through the station's outer defenses like they were made of paper. Defensive turrets that had never failed before were silenced in seconds. "How are they moving so fast?" Veltar shouted over the noise of exploding systems. "Human pilots are flying attack patterns that should be impossible," the tactical officer replied. "They are taking risks that no rational species would attempt." On the tactical display, human assault shuttles were burning through space toward the station docking bays. They moved in formation, but not like any military formation the Vorthak had seen before. They moved like a pack of predators closing in on prey. The first shuttle hit Docking Bay 7 with enough force to buckle the blast doors. Before the Vorthak defenders could respond, the bay was filled with humans in combat armor. Staff Sergeant Tai-ho Yoon was the first human through the breach. His squad followed him into the station corridors, moving with deadly precision. They had studied the station plans during the flight in. They knew exactly where the children were being held. "Multiple human boarding parties have breached the outer hull," reported a panicked Vorthak officer. "Decks 5 through 12 are compromised." "Send all security forces to repel the boarders," Threlix ordered. "Sir, they are not heading for strategic targets. They are moving directly toward the detention levels." For the first time, Commander Threlix began to understand what was happening. The humans had not come to capture the station or defeat the Vorthak forces. They had come for one thing only: the children. Staff Sergeant Yoon's squad moved through the station corridors like a force of nature. Vorthak security forces tried to stop them and discovered that humans, fighting to protect their young, were nothing like humans they had faced before. The first group of Vorthak guards set up a defensive position at a corridor junction. They had superior numbers and defensive cover. It should have been enough to stop any assault. It lasted exactly 47 seconds. Corporal Minho Lee threw himself over the Vorthak barricade with no regard for his own safety. Behind him, his squad mates poured through the breach he had created. The Vorthak weapons, designed to stop rational opponents who valued their own lives, were useless against humans who cared only about reaching the children. "Section C7, Sergeant Yoon called into his communicator as they reached the detention level. "We have visual on the targets." Through the transparent barriers, 237 human children looked up at their rescuers. Some of them started crying. Others pressed their hands against the barriers, reaching toward the soldiers. "Get these barriers down," Yoon ordered. "Now." Specialist Gina Park, the squad medic, was already moving from cell to cell, assessing the children's condition. What she saw made her stomach turn. Malnutrition, dehydration, psychological trauma. Some of the youngest ones were barely conscious. "We need medical support here immediately," she called into her radio. "These kids are in bad shape." Corporal Lee was working on the barrier controls when Commander Threlix appeared with a squad of Vorthak guards. The alien commander held a weapon that hummed with dangerous energy. "Stand down, humans," Threlix ordered. "You cannot remove the research subjects. This facility operates under council authority." Sergeant Yoon turned slowly to face the Vorthak commander. When he spoke, his voice was deadly quiet. "Research subjects? These specimens are part of an ongoing behavioral study. Removing them would compromise months of valuable data. Something changed in the human soldiers. They had been professional, efficient, focused on their mission. Now they became something else entirely. You hear that? Yoon asked his squad, never taking his eyes off Threlix. He calls them research subjects, specimens. The other humans raised their weapons. But they did not aim at the Vorthak guards. They aimed at Commander Threlix. You have been torturing children for 3 months, Corporal Lee said. His voice was flat, emotionless. Starving them, keeping them in cages. For research? The subjects were maintained within acceptable parameters, Threlix replied. All procedures followed established protocols. Behind the barriers, little Do-hyun Kim pressed his face against the transparent wall. He was so thin his bones showed through his skin. His eyes were huge in his gaunt face. Mama? He whispered, looking at the soldiers. Are you here to take me home? Medic Park knelt down beside his barrier. Yes, sweetheart. We are here to take you home. She looked up at Commander Threlix. Her medical training told her the child was maybe 2 weeks away from organ failure due to malnutrition. How much food were you giving them? She asked. Standard refugee rations calculated for optimal resource efficiency. They are children. Growing children need more food than adults. Resource allocation was not designed for optimal subject health. It was designed for behavioral observation under controlled stress conditions. Medic Park stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. Stress conditions, she repeated. Yes, we needed to observe human pack bonding responses under various pressure stimuli. The human soldiers looked at each other. Then they looked at the children. Then they looked at Commander Threlix. Sir, Corporal Lee said to Sergeant Yoon, permission to demonstrate human pack bonding responses under pressure stimuli. Permission granted. Yoon replied. What happened next would be talked about in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. It would be used as an example of what happens when humans decide that someone has crossed a line that should never be crossed. It took exactly 3 minutes. When it was over, the barriers were down and the children were free. The great chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Every seat was occupied, and additional observers lined the walls. News drones from 100 different networks floated near the ceiling, recording everything. The entire galaxy was watching. Ambassador Su-Young Kang walked slowly to the central podium. She was a small woman, barely reaching the shoulders of most alien delegates. Her gray suit was simple and professional. But when she reached the speaking platform and looked out at the assembled representatives, something in her expression made the vast chamber fall silent. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she activated the holographic display system. Images appeared in the air above the chamber floor. Images that made several alien delegates look away in discomfort. They were pictures of the children from Station Omega-7. Do-hyun Kim sitting alone in his tiny cell, his ribs visible through his thin shirt. Kyungmin trying to comfort smaller children through transparent barriers. Nari Choi dividing her small food ration to share with others. 237 children in various states of malnutrition and despair. Honored representatives, Ambassador Kang began. Her voice was calm and clear, carrying easily through the massive space. These are human children, not specimens, not research subjects, not undocumented refugees. Children. She let the images hang in the air for a long moment. The chamber remained silent except for the quiet hum of translation devices working in dozens of languages. 3 days ago, human diplomatic personnel discovered these children imprisoned in a Vorthak research facility. They had been held there for 3 months. They were given barely enough food to survive. They were denied contact with their families. They were subjected to behavioral experiments designed to test their stress responses. The images changed, showing close-up views of the children's faces. Haunted eyes, hollow cheeks, the unmistakable look of beings who had given up hope. The facility commander, when questioned about these conditions, stated that the children were being studied for their pack-bonding behaviors. He said they were valuable research subjects whose suffering provided important scientific data. A murmur ran through the chamber. The Benthari delegate's scales shifted to a dark purple color indicating distress. The Zephyrian representative clicked his mandibles loudly. Sub-Commander Veltar, the Vorthak delegate, rose from his seat. His forearms moved in a gesture that his species used to show disagreement. "The human ambassador misrepresents the situation," he said, his voice coming through translation devices in flat mechanical tones. "Those individuals were refugees found without proper documentation. According to Galactic Council Regulation 47B, such persons can be detained for processing and study." Ambassador Kang turned slowly to look at him. "Processing and study," she repeated. "Is that what you call it when you slowly starve children while recording their emotional responses?" The subjects were maintained at adequate survival levels. All procedures followed established protocols. Adequate survival levels. Ambassador Kang's voice remained calm, but everyone in the chamber could hear the steel beneath the words. "Let me show you what adequate survival levels look like." The holographic display changed again. Now it showed medical reports from the rescued children, charts displaying severe malnutrition, graphs showing dangerous vitamin deficiencies, reports of psychological trauma that would require years of treatment. "This is 8-year-old Do-hyun Kim," she said, highlighting one medical file. "When we rescued him, he weighed 19 kilograms. A healthy child his age should weigh at least 25 kilograms. He was 2 weeks away from permanent organ damage." She pulled up another file. "This is Nari Choi, age 12. She was giving her own food to younger children, trying to keep them alive. When we found her, she could barely stand without assistance." File after file appeared in the display. Each one told the same story of neglect and suffering. These children were not being maintained at adequate levels. Ambassador Kang said, "They were being slowly killed while you studied their reactions to dying." Sub-Commander Veltar remained standing. "The human response to this situation was grossly disproportionate. They deployed a battle fleet worth billions of credits. They attacked a council-authorized facility. They killed Vorthak security personnel, all for specimens that were being processed according to proper regulations." The chamber erupted in noise as multiple delegates tried to speak at once. Ambassador Kang raised one hand and somehow the gesture commanded silence. "You are correct about one thing," she said quietly. "The human response was significant. Let me explain exactly what happened." The holographic display shifted to show the human battle fleet that had appeared at Station Omega 7. Dozens of ships, from small escorts to massive dreadnoughts. It was an impressive display of military power. Within 18 hours of discovering the children, humanity assembled this fleet. Ships were pulled from patrol routes across 15 star systems. Crews abandoned scheduled leave to volunteer for the mission. Captains diverted from assigned duties without waiting for official authorization. She paused, looking around the chamber at the various alien faces watching her. "Do you understand what that means?" "It means that when human military personnel learned that children were suffering, they did not wait for orders. They did not calculate the costs. They did not consider the diplomatic implications. They simply came." The display changed to show footage from inside the human ships during their approach to the station. Soldiers checking weapons with grim determination. Medics preparing emergency medical supplies. Officers planning assault routes. Every person in this fleet knew they might be starting a war with the Vorthak Empire. They knew they were risking their careers and possibly their lives. And not one of them hesitated. Ambassador Kang walked slowly around the podium, making eye contact with delegates across the chamber. "The Vorthak delegate says our response was disproportionate. I say it was measured and merciful. We could have destroyed that station completely. We could have eliminated every Vorthak ship in the system. We could have declared war on the entire Vorthak Empire." Her voice grew softer but somehow more dangerous. "Instead, we chose to rescue our children and leave your people alive. We wanted the Vorthak to survive so they could learn from this experience, so they could tell other species what happens when you harm human young." The holographic display now showed Commander Threlix lying in a medical facility. His compound eyes held an expression that translated clearly across species barriers. It was fear, pure absolute fear. "Commander Threlix is still alive," Ambassador Kang said. "We kept him alive deliberately. Commander, would you like to share what you learned?" The holographic image of Threlix activated. His voice was weak and shaking. "The humans are not like other species in the Council. When their young are threatened, they do not follow normal behavioral patterns. They do not calculate risk versus reward. They do not consider diplomatic consequences or economic costs." He paused and several of his arms trembled visibly. "They become something else entirely, something that exists only to eliminate the threat to their children." completely permanently without mercy or hesitation. And what happened to your security forces? Ambassador Kang asked. They ceased to exist in 3 minutes and 47 seconds. The humans moved through our defenses like they were not there. Every barrier we created, every defensive position we prepared, all of it was meaningless. The chamber was completely silent now. Every delegate was focused on the terrified alien commander. The humans were not just fighting to win, Threlix continued. They were fighting to ensure that no one would ever threaten their children again. Every action they took was designed to send a message. That message was received. Ambassador Kang deactivated Threlix's image and turned back to face the assembly. Let me be absolutely clear about something. What you witnessed 3 days ago was not an overreaction. It was not disproportionate force. It was humanity showing restraint. She let that statement hang in the air for a moment. We could have done much worse. We chose not to, because we wanted this incident to be a lesson rather than a massacre. But make no mistake, the option for worse actions remains available. The Krellin delegate, a tall being with multiple eye stalks, rose hesitantly. Ambassador Kang, are you threatening council members? No, she replied calmly. I am explaining. When you harm human children, you do not face our diplomatic corps. You do not face our colonial government. You face every human who has ever cared for a child. Every human who remembers being young and vulnerable. Every human who believes that protecting the innocent is worth any sacrifice. The holographic display changed again, now showing the rescued children receiving medical care aboard human ships. The contrast with their previous conditions was striking. They were being fed proper meals, given clean clothes, reunited with their families through video communications. Human medics and soldiers were treating them with incredible gentleness. These same humans who destroyed your security forces in under 4 minutes, Ambassador Kang said, are now feeding these children, comforting them, helping them heal, because that is who we are. She turned to look directly at Subcommander Veltar. We are a species that will cross the galaxy to save a single child. 6 months had passed since the rescue at Station Omega 7. The morning sun reflected off the glass towers of Luna Base, the massive space station that orbited Earth's moon. In his office on the 73rd floor, Director Jiho Park stood at the window watching ships arrive and depart from the busy docking bays below. Everything had changed. His assistant Hana Liam entered carrying a datapad filled with the morning reports. She looked tired but satisfied. These days, everyone working for Human Protective Services looked that way. Tired from the endless work, but satisfied by what they were accomplishing. Good morning, Director, she said, setting the pad on his desk. 17 new protection requests came in overnight. The Altarian colonies want human security officers for their schools. The Rigel mining stations are asking for safety inspectors to monitor their family housing areas. Jiho nodded, making notes on his own pad. And the pirate situation in Sector 7? Resolved. The Dakari clan agreed to leave all civilian transports alone. They heard that human patrol ships were being assigned to that region and decided it was not worth the risk. Jiho smiled slightly. The galaxy had learned quickly. Pirates and raiders who had operated freely for decades were now avoiding any target that might have children aboard. The cost of attacking such vessels was simply too high. His communicator chimed with an incoming call from Earth. President Yoonji Nam appeared on the screen, her face showing the lines of someone who carried heavy responsibilities but wore them well. Director Park, she said warmly, how are our children doing today? All 237 have made complete recoveries, Jiho reported. The medical teams say they are all healthy now. The psychological counseling is going well. Most of them have returned to normal lives with their families. And young Do-Hyun Kim? Jiho's smile widened, growing fast. His mother says he has gained 15 kilograms and grown 8 centimeters. He eats constantly. She jokes that feeding him costs more than the family transport payments. President Nam laughed. That is what healthy 8-year-old boys do. What about the older children? Nari Choi has started university. She is studying xenopsychology. She says she wants to help different species understand each other better, so nothing like her imprisonment happens again. And Kyung Min? She enlisted in the Colonial Navy last month. She requested assignment to child protection duties. The Navy accepted her immediately. She starts training next week. President Nam nodded approvingly. That girl spent 3 months protecting younger children in that facility. She will make an excellent protector. Jiho pulled up a galactic map on his wall display. Green zones covered nearly a quarter of known space, each one representing an area where human forces provided protection services. Madam President, we now have protection agreements with 43 different species. That number's growing every week. Our ships patrol in 78 different star systems. Are we stretched too thin? Honestly, yes. But the volunteer rates are incredible. Since the rescue, military enlistment has increased by 800%. Young people are joining specifically to protect children. We are training new officers as fast as we can. President Nam studied the map carefully. And the Vorthak Empire? The green zones notably avoided all Vorthak space, which showed as gray on the display.
Quarantine gray?
No contact gray. Their empire is collapsing, Jiho reported. No other species will trade with them. Their colony worlds are declaring independence and requesting human protection. The central government is barely holding together. Good, President Nam said quietly. They chose to torture children for research. They can live with the consequences. She paused, then asked, how many children are under our protection now? Just over 2 million across 43 systems. And that number grows daily. It was a staggering figure. Human resources were being pushed to their absolute limits, but somehow they were making it work. Ships were being built faster than ever before. Training programs were running day and night. The entire human species had mobilized around a single purpose: protect the children. All the children? Any problems I should know about? President Nam asked. Some species think we are building an empire. The Hegemony Council released a statement expressing concern about human military expansion. And our response? The same as always. We protect children. We do not conquer planets or demand tribute. Any species that wants to protect their young alongside us becomes our ally. Any species that harms children faces our full response. President Nam smiled. Simple and clear. Anything else? There is a ceremony this afternoon. The rescued children want to thank the rescue teams personally. Do-hyun Kim specifically asked if he could meet the soldiers who saved him. That will be good for everyone. Make sure the media covers it. The galaxy needs to see those healthy, happy children. The transmission ended. Jiho returned to his reports but was interrupted minutes later by another call. This time it was Captain Hyeon Woo aboard the Soul's Pride. Director Park, we have a situation. Jiho felt the familiar cold focus settle over him. Report. Pirates have captured a civilian transport in the Kepler 438 system. 47 passengers, including 12 children from 4 different species. The pirates are demanding ransom. How far out are you? 6 hours at maximum speed. But sir, these are Dakari clan pirates. They are heavily armed and known for killing hostages if pressed. Do they know there are children aboard? Yes, sir. They specifically mentioned the children in their ransom demand. They think it will make the families pay faster. Jiho was quiet for only a moment. Then he activated his emergency command codes. Captain, you are authorized to use any force necessary to secure those children. Contact Admiral Shin and request immediate backup. Tell the planetary governments that human forces are responding to a child endangerment situation. And the pirates, sir? Standard protocol. They threaten children under our protection. Handle it accordingly. Captain Woo's expression hardened. Understood, Director. Soul's Pride out. Jiho stood at his window, looking out at the busy space lanes around Luna Base. Somewhere out there, 12 children were frightened and in danger. Within hours, they would be safe. The pirates would learn the same lesson that Commander Threlix had learned. You do not threaten human children. And you especially do not threaten any children when humans are watching. His communicator chimed again. This time it was a message from the ceremony coordination team. The afternoon event had grown from a small gathering to a major diplomatic occasion. Representatives from 37 species were coming to show their support for human child protection efforts. But the most important guests would be the children themselves. All 237 of them, healthy and happy and surrounded by families who had feared them dead. That afternoon, the great assembly hall at Luna Base filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Humans and aliens mingled together, united by a common purpose. News drones recorded everything for broadcast across the galaxy. When the children began arriving with their families, the mood in the hall shifted. These were not the starving, frightened prisoners from the rescue footage. These were healthy young beings, laughing and talking and behaving exactly as children should behave. Little Do-hyun Kim entered holding his mother's hand. He wore a new suit that actually fit his now healthy body. His cheeks were full, his eyes bright. He looked around the massive hall with wonder. "Are all these people here for us?" he asked his mother. "Yes, baby. They all came to celebrate that you are safe now." Do-hyun saw medic Gina Park sitting with the other rescue team members and pulled away from his mother. He ran across the hall and threw his arms around the surprised medic. "You came back," he said happily. "You said you would keep me safe, and you did." Medic Park hugged him tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Of course I came back. I promised, remember?" Around the hall, similar reunions were happening. Children finding the soldiers who had rescued them. Families thanking the medics who had healed their young ones. Species from across the galaxy watching and understanding what humanity had accomplished. President Yoon Nam took the podium for the closing remarks. The hall fell silent as she began to speak. 6 months ago, 237 human children were taken from their families and imprisoned. Today they are here with us, safe and loved and protected. Applause filled the hall. Several alien delegates were showing approval in their various cultural ways. But this is not just about these children, President Nam continued. This is about what kind of galaxy we want to build. A galaxy that sees children as precious gifts to be protected, or as resources to be used. She gestured to the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. Look around this room, beings from dozens of worlds speaking different languages but united in one belief, that no child should face danger alone. The applause grew louder. Even the most reserved species were showing open approval now. To the children here today, know that you are surrounded by people who will cross the galaxy to keep you safe. To the adults here, know that protecting these children is the highest honor we can achieve. President Nam looked directly at Do-hyun Kim, who was sitting in the front row between Medic Park and his parents.